On a freezing night with nothing but hunger gnawing inside her, Maria whispered a question to a stranger that would change her destiny. "Sir, may I have your leftovers?" The evening air cut like knives, and Maria pulled her thin jacket tighter around her frail frame. Her shoes were worn down, soles nearly gone, every step a reminder of how far she had fallen. Just months ago, she remembered walking into a classroom with dreams of becoming a teacher, her eyes bright with ambition. Now she stood outside a glowing restaurant, her reflection in the glass reminding her of a stranger, tired, hungry, and invisible. Inside, warmth and laughter spilled into the night. The rich aroma of roasted chicken, bread fresh from the oven, and coffee brewing made her stomach twist painfully. People clinked glasses, shared stories, and left behind plates still full of food. Food that to them was waste, but to her would mean survival. Maria had gone 2 days without a real meal. Her last bite was a piece of stale bread given by a kind passerby, but it wasn't enough to keep her body strong. Pride had always chained her lips. She hated begging, hated lowering her head. Yet tonight, the hunger was stronger than pride. She watched a man in a tailored suit step out of the restaurant, his shoes polished, his expression calm, carrying a small bag that likely held his leftovers. Her heart pounded. She bit her lip, her voice trembling before the words even formed. She lowered her gaze, not wanting to see his reaction, and whispered softly into the cold night, "Sir, may I have your leftovers?" It was not money she asked for, not pity, just scraps, anything to quiet the storm in her empty stomach. In that fragile moment, Maria's entire world hung on his answer. The man froze. For a moment, the bustling street seemed to fall silent. He had heard many things in his life, negotiations worth millions, polished compliments, sharp arguments in boardrooms, but never a plea so fragile, so raw. "Sir, may I have your leftovers?" The words replayed in his mind, simple yet piercing in a way that unsettled him. He looked down at the young woman before him. Her hair was tangled, her jacket far too thin for the night air, but it was her eyes that stopped him cold. They weren't the hollow eyes of someone broken beyond repair. No, they carried something different, an echo of dignity, a quiet strength that refused to die even in the face of hunger. It was as if those eyes whispered, "I'm not asking because I want to, but because I must." The man, Mr. Harris, was a millionaire who had built his fortune from scratch. He prided himself on discipline, efficiency, and control. Yet here he was, standing frozen on a sidewalk because of a single request from a stranger. Normally, he might have dropped a few coins, muttered something polite, and walked away. That's what he had done countless times before when confronted with poverty. It was easier to keep moving, easier not to feel. But something about Maria pierced through the walls he had built around his heart. For years, his life had been defined by transactions, by profit margins, by the next deal. But this wasn't business. This was human. And for the first time in years, he realized he had forgotten how to truly see another person. The silence between them stretched, heavier than any deal he had ever negotiated. And in that pause, something within him began to shift. Mr. Harris glanced at the bag of leftovers in his hand. He could have simply handed it to her, quick, easy, and forgettable. But something inside him resisted. For the first time in years, he felt that giving scraps wasn't enough. Without thinking too much, he spoke firmly, "Come inside with me." Maria's head snapped up, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Inside?" she whispered, as though the word itself was too fragile to be real. She looked at the bright doorway of the restaurant, then back at him. People didn't invite her in. They usually pushed her away, avoided her, or looked past her as if she didn't exist. The waiters stiffened as soon as they stepped through the doors. Their polished smiles faltered when they saw Maria's tattered jacket and dirt-streaked shoes. One leaned toward Mr. Harris. "Sir, are you sure?" The disapproval in his voice was hard to miss, but Mr. Harris didn't waver. He met their eyes with authority and said, "Prepare a table, and bring her a full meal, fresh." Maria sat down at a table covered with a crisp white cloth, her hands trembling as she touched the silverware. It had been years since she had sat at a proper dining table. When the steaming plates arrived, soup, bread, roasted chicken, her eyes filled with tears. She hesitated at first, as though afraid it would all vanish if she reached out, but when Mr. Harris nodded gently, she picked up her spoon. The first sip of warm soup hit her empty stomach like a miracle. She ate slowly, carefully, savoring every bite, but tears streamed down her cheeks. For the first time in years, Maria wasn't eating scraps. She was being treated like a person, worthy, seen, and cared for. As Maria finished the last bites of her meal, she lowered her spoon gently onto the table, her hands still trembling, not from hunger this time, but from the overwhelming kindness she had just received. Mr. Harris sat across from her, quietly observing. He wasn't rushing her, wasn't distracted by his phone or a meeting waiting somewhere. For once, he was simply present. Finally, he asked softly, "What happened to you?" Maria hesitated. She wasn't used to people caring about her story. Most only saw her worn clothes and assumed laziness, poor choices, or worse. But something in his eyes, a calmness, a genuine concern, gave her the courage to speak. "I used to dream of being a teacher," she began, her voice low. "I loved books, I loved children. I wanted to give back. But life," she swallowed hard. "Life changed everything. My parents passed away too soon. Bills stacked higher than I could manage. I worked as hard as I could, but one day, everything just collapsed. I lost school, then my job, then my home. And after that, no one looked at me the same way again." Her eyes welled with tears, but her voice grew stronger. "I didn't ask to be here begging for scraps. I just want a chance to be the person I used to believe I could be." Mr. Harris felt his chest tighten. In all his years of success, he had prided himself on being strong, untouchable, immune to emotions. But hearing Maria's story shattered something inside him. He realized she wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was a reminder of resilience, of dreams deferred, of humanity forgotten. Leaning forward, his voice steady but tender, he said words that would change her life. "You don't need scraps. You need a chance." The words hung in the air. "You don't need scraps. You need a chance." Maria froze, unsure if she had heard him correctly. She had grown so used to rejection, to temporary fixes that never lasted, that the idea of someone offering more than a meal felt impossible. But Mr. Harris's expression was steady, sincere. "You said you wanted to be a teacher," he continued. "That dream isn't gone. It's still in you, I can see it. You just need support to find your way back." Maria's lips trembled. "But why me?" "I'm no one," he shook his head. "No, you are someone. And sometimes the only difference between despair and hope is a hand reaching out at the right time." That night, he didn't just pay for her meal. He arranged for her a safe place to stay, new clothes, and introduced her to a community program he supported that helped people restart their education. What had started as scraps of food turned into a doorway to dignity, stability, and opportunity. Maria cried, not from hunger this time, but from the weight of being seen. She had asked for leftovers, but she was given something no money could truly buy, a second chance at life. For Mr. Harris, it was no less transformative. Walking out of the restaurant that night, he realized his wealth had always been measured in numbers, in possessions. But in that single act of compassion, he felt richer than he ever had before. Maria had only asked for scraps, yet she was given back her future. One act of kindness changed two lives forever. Because sometimes the smallest plea opens the door to the greatest miracles. Then kindness knocked on the door.